My mother screamed, a raw, guttural scream that shattered the air like glass. She lunged at my father, fists pounding against his chest, tears streaming down her face. 22 years, she shrieked. 22 years, and you let me be the fool. I, 32M, never imagined that a single email would unravel my entire family. It started innocently enough, a routine Monday morning at work, scrolling through my inbox between sips of burnt office coffee. Among the usual client updates and spam promotions sat an email from a name I didn't recognize. What followed was a detailed breakdown of financial records, legal documents, and old messages. The sender remained anonymous, but the content was damning. According to these files, my father, whom I'd always considered a rock of integrity, had been hiding a secret second family for the past 22 years. I stared at the screen, feeling my pulse in my throat. My hands trembled as I scrolled through pictures of a woman and 2 kids. Kids who bore an uncanny resemblance to me and my siblings. The timestamps on the messages suggested that my dad had been juggling both families for decades, expertly weaving lies between us. I needed answers. That evening, I drove to my parents' house, feeling like my entire childhood had been a lie. My mother greeted me with her usual warmth, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. My father sat in his recliner, reading glasses perched on his nose, flipping through a newspaper as if the world wasn't about to crash down around us. I didn't ease into it. I didn't sugarcoat it. Who is she? I demanded, shoving the printed emails onto the coffee table. My mother's brows knitted together. Who is who? But my father, he just went still. For a moment, I thought he might deny it. I almost hoped he would. Instead, he sighed, removed his glasses, and pinched the bridge of his nose. It's complicated, he said. I nearly laughed. Complicated? You have another family. How long were you going to keep this a secret? My mother looked between us, confusion turning into horror as realization set in. Her breathing quickened, and when she turned to my father, her voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me it's not true. But he said nothing. And in that silence, everything broke. The days that followed were a blur of chaos. My mother locked herself in their bedroom for hours at a time. My siblings, older brother Liam and younger sister Megan, reacted differently. Liam refused to acknowledge it, drinking himself into oblivion at his apartment. Megan, on the other hand, demanded to meet them. I need to see them, she said one night at my place, pacing my living room like a caged animal. I need to look them in the eye. I wasn't sure if she wanted to scream at them or embrace them. Maybe both. And so, against my better judgment, we reached out. It happened in a neutral space, a quiet park outside the city. I recognized them instantly. The woman, Claire, looked wary but composed. The son, David, was about my age, his posture tense. And the daughter, Emily, barely in her 20s, looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. The air was thick with tension as we faced each other. I don't know what you expect from us, Claire said, crossing her arms. We didn't ask for this meeting. Megan, ever the firecracker, snapped. Neither did we. David cleared his throat. Look, none of us chose this situation. But we exist. And so do you. There was no yelling. No grand cinematic confrontation. Just an awkward, painful conversation about a man who had deceived us all. By the end, we weren't friends, but we weren't enemies either. Just 2 halves of a broken puzzle, trying to make sense of where we fit. My mother filed for divorce. My father moved out, disgraced and alone. Liam still refuses to talk about it. Megan, surprisingly, keeps in contact with Emily. As for me, I still wake up some mornings expecting my world to make sense again. It never does. But I've learned something important. The truth is messy. And family? Family is whatever, and whoever, you decide to hold on to. Life moved on, but not without scars. I started therapy, something I never thought I'd need, but unraveling decades of deception wasn't something I could navigate alone. The hardest part was watching my mother rebuild. She had been a stay-at-home parent for most of her life, and suddenly, she was thrust into a world she never prepared for. Megan and I helped as much as we could, but nothing could erase the heartbreak of realizing the person she dedicated her life to was a stranger all along. I started looking deeper into my father's past, combing through the details left in the email. It turned out, Claire hadn't been his only affair. There were financial inconsistencies, shady business dealings, and a pattern of deceit that stretched far beyond our immediate family. My father wasn't just a liar, he was a fraud. As these revelations surfaced, I felt an obligation to do something about it. I compiled everything I found and consulted a lawyer, unsure of what legal grounds I had, but determined to ensure he faced some kind of accountability. It wasn't just about justice, it was about closure. Meanwhile, Liam resurfaced after months of silence. He showed up at my doorstep late one night, drunk and disheveled, spewing venom about our father. He resented the truth, hated that his perfect image of our childhood had been shattered. But beneath the anger was something deeper, grief. We all grieved the father we thought we had, even if that man had never truly existed. I kept tabs on Claire's family from a distance. Megan stayed in touch with Emily, though their relationship remained complicated. David, however, wanted nothing to do with us. He blamed my mother, as if she had somehow known about this all along. It was unfair, but I understood his anger. In the end, my father lost everything. His name, his reputation, his family. He moved states, disappearing into obscurity, but not before facing legal consequences for his financial misdeeds. The last I heard, he was living in a rundown apartment, a shell of the man who once sat in his pristine leather recliner. And me? I learned that family is not defined by blood, but by loyalty and love. I chose to stand by my mother, to support my siblings, and to build something real out of the wreckage. The truth may have destroyed the illusion of my past, but it also set me free.